His A Theological Aesthetics, Hans Balthasar talks about the importance in understanding beauty. In Balthasar's theological project, he structures it around the three classical transcendentals: the beautiful, the good, and the true. Samuel Parkinson's work, Irresistible Beauty, on his section on Hans Balthasar, he says that Balthasar felt down to his bones the disastrous effects that beauty's absence would cause. He says that beauty for him was not a luxury that one could dispense with no damage to truth and goodness. He points to where Balthasar says that in a world that no longer has enough confidence to affirm the beautiful, how that can lead into a loss of affirming truth. Parkinson says that for Balthasar, theological aesthetics had a Christological focus. Parkinson says this is so crucial that Balthasar actually warns against the desire to see God more clearly than we see him in Christ. He quotes Matthew Levering, who is commenting on Balthasar's view that in Christ God has made himself definitively perceivable. There is no beatific vision unmediated by the humanity of Christ. In the opening of Balthasar's Seeing the Form, he says, "Beauty is the word that shall be our first. Beauty is the last thing which the thinking intellect dares to approach, since only it dances as an uncontained splendor around the double constellation of the true and the good and their inseparable relation to one another." He says that beauty is the one that the ancient world refused to understand itself without, and that the modern world is separating itself from. He says this modern world no longer dares to believe in beauty, and we make of it a mere appearance in order the more easily to dispose of it. Balthasar says that beauty will not allow herself to be separated and banned from her two sisters without taking them along with herself in an act of mysterious vengeance. Balthasar says that in a world that leaves beauty behind, that the good also will lose its attractiveness. Of this, he says, but if man is to live in an original form, that form has first to be sighted. One must possess a spiritual eye capable of perceiving the forms of existence with all. Pope Benedict XVI, in commenting on Balthasar's ideas, he says, of course, we can't underestimate, the importance of careful theological thought and reflection. It's necessary. He says, but to despise on that account the impact produced by the heart's encounter with beauty, or to reject it as a true form of knowledge, would impoverish us and dry up both faith and theology. This is not just a problem for the theological world, but also for the layperson in the pastoral ministry, that we must arrange for people to encounter the beauty of the faith. Later in his Theological Aesthetics of Seeing the Form, Balthasar says the appearance of the form as revelation of the depths is an indissoluble union of two things. It is the real presence of the depths of the whole of reality, and it is a real pointing beyond itself to these depths. We're beholding this form, but if we really behold it, it is not as a detached form, rather in its unity with the depths that make their appearance in it. This is important. We are enraptured by our contemplation of these depths and are transported to them. But so long as we are dealing with the beautiful, this never happens in such a way that we leave the horizontal form behind us in order to plunge vertically into the naked depths. And he warns against univocity metaphysics. Says the living God is neither an existent subordinate to being, nor being itself, as it manifests and it reveals itself essentially in everything that makes its appearance and form. And then he connects the form to the incarnation in the way that just as we can never attain to the living God in any way except through his Son become man, but in this Son we can really attain to God in himself. So too, we ought never to speak of God's beauty without reference to the form and manner of appearing which he exhibits in salvation history. It also says, in trying to perceive God's own beauty and glory from the beauty of his manner of appearing, we must neither simply equate the two. So too, we do not want to leave the epiphany behind and try to attempt to discover God's beauty without it. He connects this to negative theology and understanding transcendence, but he says that we don't want to look past the physical form to find God. Rather, God's glory shines through the physical form. He says that we don't want to throw away the physical form in order to chase this transcendent, abstract ghost. He says contemplating the form allows our minds to transcend to the infinite without destroying the form. He connects this to what he calls rapture, but you don't want to make an equal univocity comparison and equate these things in like human labels. God's mystery reveals itself through worldly forms, and yet completely transcends them at the same time. The forms awaken our hearts to contemplate the form in order to lift our minds to the transcendent. They snatch the soul upward in a type of rapture. He says that negative theology is never detached from the positive theology. So first, you don't want to equate the two, but you also don't want to detach the two and leave the epiphany behind, as he says. He connects John of the Cross as well as Pseudo-Dionysius, that the two theologians who relied most on the apophatic method, he says we will see that they never divorced it from the cataphatic approach. He says that they could exalt the vertical to such a degree only because they never let go of the horizontal. He says that these two are the most decidedly aesthetic theologians of Christian history. We ascend to God by way of negative theology that remains tethered and grounded in positive theology. And at the positive, beholding the tangible, visible form of Jesus Christ, that is the exact vehicle that pulls us into the infinite mystery of God. Holding fast to the visible transports us into the love of the invisible.